Hey, everybody, and welcome to our deep dive. We're going to be talking about some really cool stuff today
Yeah.
about learning English quickly.
Yeah, especially if you're like a beginner.
Yeah, if you're just starting out and feeling kind of lost,
Yeah,
don't worry, we've got you covered.
we do.
So, I'm Liam.
And I'm Zoe, and I am so excited to be talking with all of you today about some really fun and easy ways to learn English.
Yeah, so we've got a bunch of tips from teachers and people who've actually, learned English successfully,
Mm-hmm.
and we've got some advice on how to practice English, even if you don't live in an English-speaking country.
Yeah, because, a lot of people think that you have to like move to an English-speaking country to be good at English,
Right.
but that's not always true at all.
Yeah, one of our sources was talking about this teacher who's helped a lot of people learn English, was talking about people who've lived in America for years and still have a really tough time with English.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they said some have been there for over 20 years.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's because, just being in the country doesn't like magically make you fluent. You have to really put in the effort.
Right.
It's like learning to play the guitar. You can't just buy a guitar and expect to be a rock star. You have to practice.
Exactly. And that's where Veronica's story comes in. She
Yes.
learned to speak English fluently while living in Russia.
Yeah, and she says the key is to like make it fun for her. It was all about watching like TV shows in English.
Really?
Yeah, things like Desperate Housewives.
Oh,
She
wow.
just loved the show so much that she didn't even realize like how much English she was learning.
Wow, that's
I
fantastic.
know, it's so cool.
It's like sneaking in those vegetables, with a
Exactly.
delicious smoothie, you get all the good stuff without even realizing it.
I love that.
So speaking of fun ways to learn,
Mm.
we found some really great advice from Emma,
Oh, yeah.
who's an experienced English teacher.
Yes, Emma, she suggests like joining or even starting an English club.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Like, where would you even do that?
There are tons of places like libraries, colleges, or even churches. They often have groups, or they're really open to starting new ones.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I
I
know.
never thought of that.
And she says you can make it really fun.
Okay.
Like learn English songs together, talk about short news stories, or even use like speaking questions from those IELTS or TOEFL websites.
Oh, that's good for practice.
Yeah, exactly. And learning with others, it can make it so much more fun and motivating.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like having a workout buddy. You push each other and you celebrate your successes together.
Yeah. So what if you can't find a club or you just want to practice on your own?
Well, Emma has some really great advice for that too.
Okay.
She recommends checking out some websites like BBC Radio, CBC Radio, and Breaking News English.
Okay.
They have like short and easy to understand news and stories, so it's perfect for listening and reading practice.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it's like starting with bite-sized snacks before moving on to a full meal.
I like that analogy. So, Emma also stresses like how important it is to figure out your own mistakes
Yeah.
and understand why you're making them.
Mm-hmm. She suggests recording yourself speaking English and then listening back to it.
Oh, wow.
I know it can feel a little awkward at first,
Yeah.
but it's super helpful.
It's like having a mirror for your English.
Exactly. You can see exactly what you need to work on.
Cool.
Yeah. And another tip from Emma is to create like a checklist of common mistakes you make in writing.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, that way you can double check your work before you show it to others.
Yeah,
Think of it as your own personal editor.
I like that.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've talked about finding fun ways to practice.
Right.
We've talked about understanding your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But what about like those times when you just don't feel like studying?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. And it happens to everyone.
For sure.
Yeah. It's important to remember why you started learning English in the first place.
Yeah, like what is your big goal?
Yeah.
Do you want to travel the world? Get a better job? Or even just watch your favorite movies without subtitles?
Right.
Like keeping that goal in mind can really help you push through.
Absolutely. And, you don't have to be perfect.
Right.
Just keep practicing and having fun.
Exactly. And sometimes the best way to learn is to just dive in and start using the language.
Yeah.
Even if you make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like learning to swim. You have to get in the water and splash around a bit.
Exactly.
Okay, so before we move on, let's just take a quick look at what we've learned so far.
Okay.
So first, you don't have to live in an English-speaking country to learn English well.
Right. And second, make it fun. Find ways to practice that you enjoy, whether it's watching TV, listening to music, or even chatting with friends.
Yeah. And finally, don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Yes.
They're all part of the learning process.
Great points. Now, let's switch gears a bit and talk about another amazing resource for learners, language exchange.
Language exchange? Tell me more.
Okay, so It's a fantastic way to practice your English with native speakers so you can teach them your language and they can help you with English. It's like a two-for-one deal.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So where can I find a language exchange partner?
Well, Emma suggests, checking out those English clubs we talked about earlier. They're often full of people from different countries who are eager to learn new languages.
Oh, so I can meet someone who wants to learn my language, and then we can help each other.
Exactly. And it can be a lot less scary to practice with someone who's also learning a new language. You both understand the challenges and can support each other.
It's like having a partner in crime for your language learning.
Yes, exactly.
So I remember Veronica had some advice about improving her pronunciation. What was that about?
Right. So she focused on finding resources online,
Okay.
like accent reduction books and videos on YouTube. She even tried this technique called shadowing.
Shadowing. What is that?
So basically, you listen to a native speaker and try to copy their pronunciation and intonation, so it's like a workout for your tongue and your ears.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. It's amazing how much you can pick up just by listening carefully and trying to sound like a native speaker. I
Right.
guess that's what we mean by active learning.
Absolutely. Just listening to English passively isn't enough. You have to actually engage with it, whether it's speaking, writing, or even just like paying close attention to specific grammar points.
Yeah, Ryan made a good point about that. She said, even if you live in an English-speaking country, people aren't going to stop and explain every grammar rule to you.
Right.
You still have to put in the work.
Exactly. It's like going to the gym, just being in the gym doesn't make you fit. You have to actually exercise.
Yeah, that's a good point. Um, so I'm curious, what if someone's really struggling with a specific part of English,
Okay.
like grammar or vocabulary? Any suggestions?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are so many resources available, both online and offline, for grammar. There are websites like Grammarly or apps like Duolingo that can really help you identify and correct mistakes.
Oh, yeah, those are super helpful for catching those little grammar gremlins.
Exactly. And then for vocabulary, flashcard apps like Anki or Memrise can be really effective. You can create your own flashcards with new words, or you can use pre-made decks.
Okay.
And don't forget about good old-fashioned reading books, articles, or even just social media posts can expose you to tons of new words and context.
Yeah, reading is like a treasure hunt for new words. You never know what gems you'll discover.
Exactly.
So we've talked a lot about using technology for learning English.
Right.
What about some more traditional methods like taking classes or working with a tutor?
Yeah, those can be fantastic options too. Taking a class can provide like structure and accountability, and then working with a tutor can offer more personalized attention and feedback.
So it's really about finding what works best for you and your learning style.
Exactly. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah.
The most important thing is to be consistent and, find ways to enjoy the learning process. Remember, learning English should be an adventure, not a chore.
Yes, an adventure. I love that. So before we wrap up, I want to touch on something. I think a lot of learners struggle with fear of making mistakes.
Right.
And I know Veronica mentioned this in her story.
Yeah, she talked about how she was initially terrified to speak English with native speakers.
Yeah.
She was so worried about making mistakes and sounding silly.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that.
Totally. It's like stage fright for speaking a new language.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for overcoming that fear?
Absolutely. First, it's important to remember that everyone makes mistakes, even native speakers.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The key is to not let the fear of making mistakes paralyze you.
Okay.
Think of mistakes as opportunities to learn and improve. Embrace them.
Yeah, it's like learning to ride a bike.
Yeah.
You're going to fall a few times before you find your balance,
Right?
but each fall teaches you something and helps you get better.
Exactly. And the more you practice, the more confident you'll become. It's like anything else. Practice makes progress.
Practice makes progress.
I like that.
So to all our listeners out there who are feeling a bit nervous about speaking English, just remember it's okay to make mistakes.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to experiment, have fun, and enjoy the journey.
So let's take a moment to recap some of the key takeaways from this deep dive.
Okay.
So first, learning English is all about finding what works for you.
Right. There are so many different approaches, from online resources to traditional classes, language exchange partners, and even just immersing yourself in English language media.
And second, consistency is key. Even if you can only dedicate like a small amount of time each day, those little efforts, they add up over time.
Absolutely. And most importantly, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Embrace them as opportunities to learn and grow.
Those are some really powerful takeaways. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought-provoking question to ponder.
Ooh, I like it.
Think about those hobbies and interests you love.
Yeah.
How can you incorporate them into your English learning journey?
Yeah, can you watch movies or TV shows in English about those topics? Can you find online forums or groups where people discuss those interests in English?
Oh, that's a great idea.
By connecting your passions with your language learning goals, you can make the process more enjoyable and sustainable.
I love that it's all about finding ways to make learning English a natural and enjoyable part of your life.
Exactly.
It's like weaving English into the fabric of your everyday life. It's like weaving English into the fabric of your everyday life. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I just want to say that learning English can be such a rewarding experience.
Oh, yeah, it opens up a whole world of possibilities for communication, connection, and understanding.
Absolutely. And remember, it's a journey, not a race. Be patient with yourself, celebrate your progress, and never stop exploring the amazing world of the English language.
Yeah, we've covered so much ground today, and I hope you feel inspired and empowered to take your English learning to the next level.
I know I do. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.